Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Andrew, or AZ, just call me this way. I'm a global technologist for Veeam product strategy team. So I'm really happy to be here with you because I'm going to continue our Veeam cloud journey and to essentially to show the technology and how it's working today. And then I decided to bring up like a general slide, kind of an overview of things that I'm going to do. And what you can see here is you can see a couple of clouds. I will start from GCP cloud over there in the left side of the screen. I will follow with some of the stuff that we have for Microsoft Azure, and I will show you some AWS stuff that we have. So what's important to mention here is we have 3 different products. Okay, so I have the abbreviation of VCB, Veeam Cloud Backup, although it's Veeam Backup for Cloud Google Platform, Veeam Backup for Microsoft Azure, and Veeam Backup for AWS. And while you can say that, okay, different products, right? Why would you need them? But then we have a piece that kind of sticks them all together. And then essentially that's Veeam Backup and Replication. This is the main server that I've got over there. And so for my demo, for the setup that I'm using here, I have deployed it in my on-premises data center, although it could have been any particular cloud. And don't get me wrong, we have like offerings in marketplaces all over there. So it should be easy for anyone to actually to deploy it. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to GCP to deploy my workloads that I have there to show you around, because it's a new kid on the block. It's a new product that we have in Veeam family. Then I will come to VBR to show the management perspective and to show how you can extract the data from the cloud and bring it to on-premises whenever you need that reason. Could be compliance, could be anything else. And then I'm going to push the data to Azure, essentially to performing cloud-to-cloud conversion, just to show you that we didn't have any, like cloud lock in there. And then I'm going to show you as number 3, I'm going to show you the newest things, the capabilities that we have inside of Veeam Cloud, Veeam Backup for AWS, so especially RDS and VPC support, backup and recovery there. Okay, so let's kick it off. Okay, so let me start from Google Cloud Platform, where I am at the moment. So what I'm going to do is essentially I'm going to deploy Veeam Backup for GCP, just to show you how easy it is. But then before that, I was thinking, okay, so let's go and let's provision something. Okay, I'm going to VM instances, where I'm going to provision something real quick, because obviously it's a live demo and I would like you to think that it's, it could be done in seconds, and it is. It's just I'm dealing with some sluggishness here. But okay, let's have a new instance. I'll call it CFT. Okay, I'm going to deploy it in, let's say, Northern Virginia and 4A. And for the instance itself, I'm going to go for Debian version 9. And it doesn't really matter, what I could have been doing. I'm going to allow it, HTTPS traffic, and create. Okay, so while GCP is happy and creating some instance for me, I can already go to my product that I pre-deployed, so Veeam Backup for GCP, where I have a couple of policies already. It's all configured, but well, I'm going to do it right now, so I can show you that how the snapshots and the backups will take place. So I've got already a CDP policy, CFDM, sorry, policy here, and then I'm going to edit it. I'm going to go to sources, where I have already one region edit and one resources will be protected. Okay, so I don't need the any GCP instance anymore. I'm going to remove it and going to quickly search for the instances in my global list. And as you can see here, I've got already a newest one. That's something that I just created. Okay, I'm going to protect it, apply, next. Well, I'm going to show you that policy in new Veeam Backup for GCP right away, but then now I'm going to finish and then run this policy right away. So what will happen then is we'll take a snapshot of the instance, and then we'll take a backup of the instance, and then we'll put the backup of the instance in Google Object Storage, from where I would love to pick it up later on. But for now, let's come back to Google console in here, and let's actually provision a new Veeam backup for GCP instance, just because I really want to show you how easy it is. So I'm going to the marketplace where I'm searching for Veeam. Okay, you can see Veeam backup for Google Cloud Platform. Okay, let's click there. And in a couple of seconds, you should be seeing the information, some marketing information, what the solution, how it looks like, and what version we have there, and what requirements we have there. So I'm going to click on Launch and going to provide a friendly name. Okay, so the name would be a Veeam backup for GCP Cloud Field Day. Okay, zone. Let's put it in. Let's say the same zone is for A. I don't need to actually configure anything else rather than, okay, I will allow some HTTPS traffic coming to my instance. Okay. But then I'm going to do it just for demo purposes. So it's not really secure, but that's what I'm going to do for now, because this instance is going to be destroyed after this demo anyways. Okay, and while it's being deployed, you can see that we've got, well, a couple of processes going on here. And then it took me, a couple of clicks and a couple of seconds to actually to get it done. Meanwhile, I'm going to storages and I will prepare my infrastructure for the solution to work, because I would like to leverage some sort of object storage. And so it would be nice to have it already prepared. So I'm going to create a new bucket here, which I'm going to use later. And the bucket would be, okay, let's say CUD 10. Oh, I just like that name. Okay. So let's continue. For the location type, actually, we don't really care what location type you choose, but then I'm going to stick to the region one and going to operate inside of that region. Although it could have been, bucket in different region, and it would be cost associated with data flows going on there. But then, it's like David mentioned, cloud is not a charity, and it's fine to have it this way. As for the storage class, for now, we only support standard storage class, although we're heavily looking and researching how we can support more. But then for now, let's stick it this way, a standard storage class for the bucket that where we're going to operate in. And then access control, either option is fine. Fine-grained, this is something that I'm going to use. And then both of the Google managed encryption keys and customer managed encryption keys are also supported. So I'm sticking with Google management encryption key. So I'm going to create a bucket. The bucket should be created in just a few seconds. Okay, I can come back to the list of my buckets that I have there. But then what's really important to mention here is that whenever you need to operate with that bucket, for example, from within Veeam Backup application, or from Veeam Backup for Google Cloud, you go to settings, and then you go to interoperability, and then you have a nice notion of HMAC keys. And then the access keys for service account, you can see that I've got one service account with some access key, and the secret key is hidden, obviously. But then just so you know where you can find it, because I'm pretty sure not everyone is familiar with Google Cloud Platform and how it works. Okay, meanwhile, I can come back to my compute engine and VM instances and stuff that I have there. Okay, so what do I have there? Supposedly, I have the new VB GCP Cloud Field Day VM that is up and running. Okay, it's still being prepared, although I can copy the IP address. Okay, let's actually go there. Let's see what's going on. HTTPS. Okay, there should be a warning because of the self-signed certificate, but I'll accept the risk because I feel risky today. And you can see the appliance was already deployed. I'm going to accept the EULA and the terms of our agreement. Okay, now I need to provide the instance ID, which is something that should be easy, because if I go to the settings of the instance itself, it should be the information right away over there. I'm going to copy it. And then I need to specify the first user that is going to be using this appliance. Okay, the first user is this guy.
Hey, AZ.
Yep.
I don't want to interrupt your flow too much, But so one of the questions that kind of our conversation that's cropping up is, can you do all of this programmatically? Because I think a lot of the ways that we tend to deploy stuff now, at least the folks on the delegate panel, is by using CloudFormation or Terraform or something similar, as opposed to clicking through the portal. So if I want to get this appliance deployed and configured and wired in, can I just do that all from a Terraform module, or do I have to go through the marketplace to do it?
Okay, not for GCP, not for now, but for other clouds, yes.
Okay, so there's an existing like Terraform module or provider that I can snap in and use it.
I'll step in here. Not a provider, Ned, from us just yet, but obviously, if you leverage I think from memory Terraform, you can snap in a CloudFormation situation and get it to kind of go through that. So yeah, obviously there are automatic ways to do this and programmatic ways to do this, just like everything else. So short answer is yes, mate.
Okay, yeah, that's if next time you're working on a demo, I think we would love to see the programmatic deployment of this as well, because that is something that I think more and more folks are doing, as opposed to doing everything through the portal.
All right, that's fair comment.
Yeah, you can also just deploy this directly from VBR as well. So rather than going through the marketplace, you can just right click on manage service in VBR and just say, I want to go protect these workloads, and it will actually go through. It'll ask you a few questions like your VPC subnets and stuff, but it'll go through and it'll actually just go and deploy and set all this up for you automatically from Veeam backup and replication.
And for that as well, you could leverage the PowerShell commandlets as well to do that from VBR. So there's lots of ways to skin it.
You can see I've got some warning in here because I have to basically to configure the Veeam service account. And this is something you guys concerned about security. I know there would be questions about it, but then it's really granular what I can do and what my service account can do. So I can, you can see that bunch of options here, what I would allow, but basically everything, I would do it right away. And then what's happening is that we have a service account created. I can check permissions for my account. It should fail, okay? Everything failed because obviously there is new service account and it doesn't have any permission. But what we can do, we can generate and download script. Okay, I'm going to do it. Save script, blob. Let's save it. And then I will have to go to my Google Cloud Console and then to work around it, to give my service account some of the permissions. And then if you think about that, so I'm going to open this, downloads, should be script somewhere there. It should be really easy to copy paste everything there and to make sure that I've granted everything. But then this doesn't work for me. So I'm going to upload this file from downloads script. I'm going to give it an actual executable rights for that. And then to use this script, okay, need to authorize to make the GCP API call. And then after that, my service account will get all the, the roles and permissions and everything it needs to be able to actually to run the Veeam backup for GCP inside of this project. And then this is the project that I'm talking about. This is the name of the project. Okay, the script is gone. And so I can come back to my console and I can check permissions once again. So everything is granted right now. I can just click OK and click next. After that, my project is added to GCP, and then I can go ahead and add the backup repository. And this is something that I can do because essentially it's like 3 steps. You add a project that you are going to work with. You add a repository, and this is the multi-layer approach. Okay, I'm going to rescan it, CFT10. This is something I created. And then I'm going to generate HMAC keys and going to copy it right here for my, just for sake of balance. Copy to dashboard. Okay, after that, I'm going to, I don't have it in new buckets, so I'm going to create a new folder inside of this bucket. And this is the folder that this Veeam backup for Google Cloud Platform is going to operate with. So after that, there is encryption. I'm not going to enable it, just doing it for demo purposes, but it's also supported multiple ways. And then the repository is added. So essentially, I can put the backups over there, but then for that, I need to configure workers, and it's something that we use to just process all the backup and recovery operations to be able to scale out our solution as much as possible. And then for each region, you have to specify the configuration where how those temporary workers are going to operate. But basically, you are choosing the region, you're choosing the network settings that you have in that region, VPC, subnet, and firewall rules. And basically, it's just, okay, one important point to make sure that HTTPS port is open, because the communication between a worker and the backup appliance itself, it's secure. So this is it for the initial configuration, and now I can go ahead. I can quick it, exit configuration, and I can just operate with my appliance. Okay, so easy as that. Probably last thing I wanted to mention here, because I expect some question about licensing, and then you can see that if I go to configuration and license, I've got the free type of license, so it's free edition, up to 10 Veeam instances you can protect with no problem at all. But then if you have the Veeam Universal License, you can install right here, install the license and then apply the file, and the limitation of 10 Veeam instances is removed after that. Okay, then I'm coming back to my policy that I was running in different appliances. Okay, and then you can see CFD, success. What it means that we effectively managed to create a snapshot of that instance within 42 seconds. Okay, and then we also get the data and put it into the backup, put it into the object repository, and then it would be handy for me to have it right away. So the backup took 7 minutes 6 seconds, and then essentially the backup is in Google object repository, and now I can do anything, pretty much anything that I would like with that data. Because if we're coming back to my original diagram that I have listed here. So it is inside of external repository, and this is the concept that we have for our Veeam backup and replication server. And this is somewhere where I'm going to go right away. Okay, this is Veeam backup and replication server. I know it should be a little bit smaller than it used to, but then I'm going to show it right away. Okay, so backup infrastructure, and we have the concept of external repository. This is basically for us, I've got a bunch of them already added. So Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage, Microsoft Azure Blob Storage, but anything external to this VBR. So it's not like a direct repository or anything, but it's the repository that was previously created within any cloud by Veeam Cloud Backup solution. Okay, and then if you remember it, but I don't know if you remember it, but I selected this specific GCP EAS4 repository, which I'm going to rescan at the moment. And then it should be really easy to add the repository, because you just need to provide the credentials and then the region where you're going to operate, and you need to select a bucket. And then there was a bucket that I previously created and previously used and everything. So what we are doing right now, we're rescanning this repository, and then it should be an automatic process, but since we are doing it, we want to have everything right away, you can see that, okay, it found 2 unencrypted backups, updated 1 and script 3. So basically updated 1 backup is something that I'm looking forward to. Okay, I'm coming to home in here, and I've got backups and external repository over there. So it should be there in a couple of seconds, but basically I've got, you can see those recovery points in all of my external repositories that I've got there. And you can see I've got a newest one, which is from CFD. So let me expand it. And then you can see that I've got a Linux CFD instance and another one. And then I can right click on it and perform any recovery operations that I like. Started from instant Veeam recovery. Basically, it's not Veeam, it's Veeam instance, but then I can recover it to on-premises environment, to vSphere, to Hyper-V, or I can recover it to other clouds, such as Microsoft Azure or Amazon EC2. like to recover it as Amazon EC2 instance. And this is something that I'm going to do now because I wanted to basically to recover it to different clouds. So for that, I have prepared the PowerShell script just because the operation would take a couple of seconds for me to actually to go through all the wizards, but then we're going to do it. And then if I get it right, Linux GCP. This should be the name of my instance, and GCP to Azure, it's going to be the name of my instance of my virtual machine in Azure. Okay, so let's save it and let's run it right away. Okay, so what will happen then is you can see that the most interesting commandlet here is start VBR Veeam restore to Azure. And those are all the parameters that I have there. You can see all of them. Probably you can't, but then let me zoom in. Okay, so basically I need to provide the, the subscription, storage account, and my Azure data, my, stuff on behalf of which Veeam backup and replication going to push the data into Azure. And then I need to specify a recovery point, and I'm going to use the latest one, but essentially I've got just one, so it's nothing here. Okay, and obviously it cannot find my my instance because I'm pretty sure it's CFT, Linux CFT, Linux CFT. Okay, it should be this way then now. But so what will happen next? Okay, let's go to Veeam backup and replication right away. What will happen next is we will launch a procedure which will be called recovery to Microsoft Azure. And let me go through the wizard of the user interface. So basically you have to select a subscription, location, the data center, the target data center where you're going to push the data into. Okay, and then let's stick with East US. And then you'll have to select all the there is a nice warning about possible data violation rights because the original and target location do not match. Okay, that's fine. I know that. Thank you. So then what I'm going to do is to click next to select VM size, the appropriate one in the particular region where I'm going to push my data into. Okay, let's stick to basic. The storage type could be either or unmanaged or managed disks. Storage account, but then for those of you operating with Azure, you know how easy it is to actually to create all of those resources. And then for resource group, actually I have a group already there. So it could be real easy for me to select the resource group in East-US region and then to click next. And then the virtual network is one of the last steps to make sure that my VM that I'm going to recover into the cloud, it would have the network connectivity. And then I have a virtual network, a subnet, and a public IP address. Okay, I'm going to unsign it for now, but then essentially I'm not even going to go to the end of this operation. NSG, something like that. Okay, and after that, it will kick off the procedure itself. But then this is what I did with my PowerShell script running there. And then if we cancel this operation and if we go to the operations that are happening in the moment, you should be able to see that one of them, okay, restore to Azure, 100% complete. But then it's talking about the data push itself. So what's happening here is I have pushed already the data into the Azure, and now we're performing a conversion because we don't want this VM to be, to have a failure within the boot whenever we decide to boot it up. So what we're doing is we're performing a conversion of the Linux system into something that would be successfully running in Azure. Okay, I'm going to exit for now, and then I can tell you that the procedure is taking around 7-8 minutes, depending on the region and depending on the the availability of resources and everything. But then I'm going to close it for now, and going to come back to to the general story that we have inside of Veeam backup and replication towards cloud. So what is important to mention here is we've got cloud mentioned here a couple of times. And for us, it's important to, first of all, to know the concept of backup repository. Okay, let's add a repository here. And you can see that I've got object storage option. I'm going to click on it and going to briefly show you that options available for me. So we've got Amazon S3 compatible, Microsoft Azure, and everything. And this is something that is part of Veeam Scale Out Backup repository. So any data could be pushed there for kind of archival reason and for long-term retention. And then we've got newest additions to this feature, because I know you have heard about it already. And then in the 11, in the recent version, we've also got the support for, let's say, for Amazon S3 Glacier, which is right here. And then this is something that I'm going to leave for Anthony, because he would have a demonstration about how this technology works. Okay, so this is the first concept, backup repository from on-premises to cloud object storage via scale-out backup repository that we've got there. Okay, this is the first concept. The second one is something that I have already been operating with, external repository. I'm going to, I'm not going to connect to any repositories, but then this is something that I'm already doing, because I've got a bunch of them added from the corresponding cloud backup appliance that we've got out there. And so essentially for Amazon, Google Cloud, and for Microsoft Azure, we've got all of those repositories. So this is the kind of the second notion here, is we can bring any data from cloud object storage to on-premises whenever you need to have it on-premises. And then you can recover it, you can push it to other cloud, anything else. The third concept here is if I go to manage servers, okay? And if I click on add a server, you can see that I've got a couple of interesting options. We used to have just Microsoft vSphere, then we added Hyper-V, but then the most interesting case should be Veeam backup for AWS and Veeam backup for Microsoft Azure. And remember what David was talking about. So the GCP is also coming here in the next version. Okay. So I can add, what does it actually mean? Let's click on Azure here. And you can see that inside of this wizard, I can connect to an existing appliance that I have already in Microsoft Azure, or I can deploy a new one. And basically, if I need an appliance in new regional, but why would I do that? But anyways, I could have deployed a new one. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to connect to an existing one, because I have already got something for you, kind of a redundant appliance there. And then I definitely have to specify my compute account. So we will connect to Microsoft Azure and we'll see my subscriptions. Okay, there we come, the subscription, East US Data Center, and virtual machine name. Okay, and I've got pre-deployed VBA CFD appliance over there. So it's working, it's waiting for me to actually do anything. So I'm going to connect with it. And I'm going to connection type, it's a direct connection, nothing here interesting. The credentials, I have already specified my credentials. So I'm going to click next and then use my absent account. So what happened now is we're going to actually talk to the appliance to see whether it's busy or taken by another Veeam backup application server. And after that, we're going to establish available resources, for example, repositories. So then the list of repositories which are going to be, popped up via that appliance itself. And then once it's added, I will be able to see those repositories, and I will see those. You can see I've got no repositories because it's a new one. But then I'm going to click next and apply, and then to register that backup appliance inside of my Veeam backup and application infrastructure. So what will happen next is if I need to create a policy, or if I need to protect some cloud data, for example, it could be this way. I'll go to home, and then what I can do is I can select a backup job. Okay, let's create a new backup job in, for example, in my environment that I've got. Okay, that I've got there on premises, such as virtual machine, VMware, Hyper-V, could be Linux, Mac, like basically anything else. But then after that, Azure and AWS. And what I mean by that, if I need to actually do anything in a Microsoft Azure, this is my new appliance. I can click on it. And what will happen is that we'll have a token, which is a secure and interesting way to communicate to our appliance. And then it would give me an option to create a policy and to run it. Okay, let's come back to backup and application here. Besides of that, it's worth to mention that it's not just the backup jobs. It's also the recovery procedures that I can perform right from here, from this particular central management console. Okay, for example, well, I'm not really happy about my AWS infrastructure. Okay, I'm going to click AWS, and then it would show me the recovery options for the data that I've had there in AWS. And speaking of that, I'm going to do it just after after this presentation is done, because if I come back to my AWS console, okay, let's come back there for a second, where my AWS console is. Because I've been playing with RDS, and I actually, I don't think that I was doing something right in here, because, well, someone successfully deleted my DB instance, which is Veeam 1. And then, as you can see here, I'm going to update it. There is no Veeam 1 instance there anymore. So let's come back to my Veeam Backup and Application console, and then let's find out what I've got there. Okay, inside of the backups, I've got some snapshots, and then you can see the platforms that I'm using here: Microsoft Azure, AWS. Okay, those are the snapshots. And then Veeam 1, which is right here, the instance in AWS, it's RDS instance. And then I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to perform a recovery for this instance. Okay, could have gone to any recovery point, because I've got multiple points, but then I will stick to the original location of the instance itself. So I'll click next. I have to specify my IAM role, obviously. Okay, it's going to be default account that I'm using there. Then click next. And after some validation, I don't want this page to be shown. I'm going to click finish, and essentially it would actually start the procedure inside of AWS. It's going to bring my database that was mistakenly deleted back to my production account that I'm using there in AWS. Okay, the restore task is started, and then I'll come back to that restore task in just a couple of minutes. But then what's important to mention, that I've got one running tasks, which means that my previous task that I launched by using PowerShell script, it's gone. And which means that I successfully managed to recover GCP appliance, well, GCP Linux instance that I previously created to Azure. And then it took me 8 minutes, but essentially you should be thinking about, okay, so this is like no cloud lock, nothing like that. And the full data portability story comes into here. So it doesn't really matter what cloud I'm operating in, but then I'm not really locked in there, because I can move my data between it. And then, yeah, it would be some questions about the cost associated with those operations. I get it. But then you don't have even to deploy Veeam Backup and Application here on-prem. You can deploy it within the cloud. And so there will be direct connection between the clouds to manage the data recovery and data portability, which I think it's brilliant technology, to be honest. But what is missing here is I can close it, and let's actually come back to my Azure environment just to show you that it's there. It's not like I'm not faking or anything. I'm going to refresh it. Yeah, in a second, you see that I've got GCP to Azure virtual machine. I didn't give it to a public IP address, but then, well, it didn't feel like I should be doing it. Anyways, this is for demo purposes. And then now I can use that virtual machine that was originally created in Google Cloud. I can use it in Azure. And the same situation would have been, happening with AWS. I could have pushed it to AWS. It doesn't really matter for me. And the other way around, Azure to AWS. So you're not basically limited to anything. It's pretty much up to your imagination or up to the business challenges. And for example, if your CEO comes in and says, okay, I've got some free credits in Azure, and then you need to migrate my data from anywhere, that cloud to Azure. How would you do it? And so you can use this functionality and Veeam migration and essential the actual portability of the data that we provide. This is the story, and to be honest, I really like what we're doing here. Okay, so coming back to my Veeam Backup and Application account, just like the server last time, I would like to see my RDS recovery procedure. I'm going to click on statistics. Okay, 2 minutes. It's still working. It's fine. I expected that. I'm going to close it for now, and going to essentially to close to close it. So we're coming to number 3, which is here, the things that we can do in AWS. We've been protecting the instances, the Veeam instances inside of Google Cloud Platform. We managed to bring them together to a Veeam Backup and Application, and to see the management capabilities and the recovery capabilities that Veeam Backup and Application has. And we managed to push the data that I've got from GCP to Azure. So now it's in Azure. But then again, could have done it to AWS, but then for AWS, I feel like that was already shown to you. So I'm going to show you the new story that we've got there. Okay, so for AWS, let's come to my appliance, that is Veeam Backup for AWS, which is version 3. And this is something that wasn't shown before. And then for, you can see right away, right here, that it used to have just protection of EC2 instances, and now it's RDS and VPC support as well. So what's important to mention here, it's inside of those new tabs that we've got for policies. Okay, let me come and click to VPC. And then I've got a VPC configuration backup. What does it mean? It means that whenever I'm having regular policies configured for my EC2 or RDS instances, okay, I'm just going to edit this policy. Because I've got this setting and then automatically collect VPC settings, which means that whenever I've got any other policy operating with my account that I've got there on my region that I'm operating inside of AWS, we're going to automatically discover it, and we're going to automatically protect those VPC settings. So you can see 2 regions discovered. It's just because I was working with 2 regions before. And then I'm going to click, and you can see that, yeah, it's the Stockholm and Ohio, those regions that were automatically discovered and then protected. What I can also do here is I can click next, and then I can have an additional copy of my VPC settings being stored somewhere into S3, into a repository that I've got there. I'm not going to do that for now. But then I think that the most interesting situation, and I'm going to discard it. The most interesting thing that I can show you how it exactly works. So let's come to my AWS console. Okay, so services and VPC should be coming here in a couple of seconds. Okay, the VPC, and then I'm going to break the stuff, because you know how it's usually done. It could be anything, like anyone. Basically, we're all humans. We make mistakes, and someone wants, wanted to do something crazy about the routing tables or the HTTP settings, something like that. But anyways, so I have decided to delete 2 of my subnets that I've got there. Okay, delete subnet, delete. And then, everything that is going to be kind of associated with those subnets, root tables, and the HTTP option settings would be also deleted. But what I can do as well is I can go to security groups and delete some of the stuff there. And for those of you working with AWS, well, to me, to be honest, this is one of the most kind of critical things, because I would like my security groups to be in order, to be, to have a proper naming system and everything. But then this is something that I'm going to kind of, to bring upon myself, to delete 3 security groups that are there and to delete them. Okay, now that destroyed. And well, whoever did that, he must have had the right intentions and everything, but the infrastructure is gone. So what I can do, I can come back to my Veeam Backup for AWS appliance, okay? And then I'm going to protected data, which I've got here, and VPC settings. Okay, so I've been operating with my Stockholm region. And the nice functionality that we have there, along with restore and export and remove and everything, we have the compare option. And then this is something that I'm going to run in here. So essentially we're pulling the data from the live system from production, and this is on the right side of my screen. You can see that I've got nothing in production, and compare it to the backup. I've got, well, a lot of options there because it used to be that way. I can even, to disable it, and I can show everything that is in backup and in production, and then it's, the whole list of comparison of all attributes there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically to select the recovery point where I got everything right in right order, and I'm going to a restore option. Okay, the default VPC, that is easy. Then I'm going to click next. IAM role, it's default role. I'll click next as well. And I'm going to recover it to original location, which is in my Stockholm region. Although I could have done it with, different location if I needed to kind of perform a VPC migration of some sorts. Okay, and then I'm coming to finish. And then now it would take a couple of seconds, probably a minute, to recover things. But then for that, I'm going to back to session log. And then you can see that my RDS instance restore that I ran from Veeam Backup and Replication, it's running. Okay, if I click on it, it's still like 9 minutes inside of it, and it's running. It's fine, totally accepted. But then beside of that, I also have the VPC restore that is happening. And then, it successfully ended. So 20 seconds, it took Appliance 20 seconds to recover everything back to the normal, to the order. I'm going to close it and come back to AWS just to show you that everything, including my security groups, are back, and including my my subnets are also back. So let's click on subnets and let's refresh the page. You should be able to see that everything, A, B, C, all of the subnets that I had there, and they're all back, which is really cool. And this is another kind of interesting technology that basically that allows me to kind of sleep at night with, with a good mood, and with knowing that if anything goes wrong, I should be able to recover the data.
A quick question. So what are the limits of that? That's really cool, but are we also talking about like auto scale groups, load balancers? How deep can it go?
So for that, let me come back to the protected data here. If I click on compare, and if I click to actually disable all the changed attributes, basically you should be able to see how much of that it actually protects. So basically anything related to VPC. I do not think that I have auto-scaled groups created there, although it could have, protected that as well.
Okay, cool. So anything on the VPC list or the EC2 list, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but here I'm specifically talking about VPC. So for EC2 it would be a little bit. It's kind of, it's because we think about EC2, it's for the data inside of the EC2 instance, not for the, attributes related to it.
Yeah, it doesn't do auto scale groups.
It does not. Okay. All right. So, and I'm also assuming that there's no like magic sauce. I mean, if you're trying to restore like an ENI with the public facing IP address, you're not going to get the same public facing IP back. You can't even do that natively. So
yeah, exactly. If AWS don't give the capabilities, there's not a lot we can do.
Understood. Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right. So to kind of bring everything together in here, I'm coming back to my session log just to check how my RDS instance restore is doing while it's still running, but then it's expected. And you can see that I'm already, I'm on the way to apply the advanced RDS option. So it's doing something, and then essentially the procedure takes, it depending on the DB size, depending on the region, depends on availability of like all the components involved there. But usually it might be, starting from 1 minute and up to 20, 30. It's not something that I could have predicted. So anyways, it's running. But then to wrap up around this, let me go to my protected data and to show you the RDS options and RDS restore options, because I used to have my 4 RDS instances. You can see those instances there, and that I've got the different engines and different number of snapshots available for all the instances there. So for example, for SQL Green Dream, which is in Ohio, let me click there on snapshots. And then, you should be able to see that I've got 2 of them in Ohio, actually 4 of them in Ohio, I'm sorry. And then I've got 2 replicas of those, of that database instance in Virginia. So I managed to replicate, because it's inside of the RDS configuration policy. I could have also gone for, replication between the regions, and then it's available in different regions for me as well. I guess I'm going to conclude this session with, talking again about my journey that I showed for you, essentially starting from GCP, protecting some of the data that I've got there, bringing the data to on-premises to an environment where I can recover it to any other cloud. And then I went for Azure. I could have done for AWS, but then with AWS, we've also got the capabilities to actually to protect additional sources of data, such as RDS databases and VPC configurations. And with that, we've got all the management capabilities, all the data capabilities, and I really hope that you can see how simple it is to basically to operate with any cloud, to use Veeam backup application, a single pane of management, if you will. And then, to bring data anywhere. And then we do it in a way that is simple, flexible, and reliable, because it's flexible. Whatever you decide to do today, whatever cloud you prefer to do today, to use today, that's fine. We could support that. Whenever you perform in any operations, such as backup and recovery operations, we are doing it in a really reliable way. So we are trying to make sure that whenever you need that set of data, it's available and it could be recovered. And whenever you need it, it's up there for you.